Yeah, my name is Jeremy Tamari. I work for Spectrum Medical. I'm honored to be presenting at the Annabelle Symposium. I'm a perfusionist by trade, and I've certainly never seen anything like what you're going through today, and I cannot imagine what you're currently going through being on the front line. What I do know is that I really appreciate your time and your service during this difficult situation and taking care of the communities in which you serve. To start, I wanted to give you a perspective on how we've been conducting business during these difficult times. We continue to be engaging our customer base with new installs, server updates, on site when possible, for implementation and training, but we've been doing a lot of virtual training as well. We're trying to be as creative as we can to help support our customer base, which is being obviously pushed to their limits. Um, Also listening. We've been in constant contact with our customers to understand the tools they need to deal with the scope and scale of the pandemic response. And we're working hard to enhance and create solutions to meet your needs. And one of those solutions is our ECLS platform, analytic tool, and remote monitoring, which we'll go through for the rest of the presentation. So our ECLS platform, the quantum perfusion system, is a fully customizable platform designed to fit the unique needs of every patient population across the ECLS space. And the focal point of it is the Quantum Elite. Everything that's I'm going to be showing you, from an FDA approval standpoint, I'll let you know if it's approved or not, and everything with the Elite and the pumps in front of you are now FDA approved, both for 6-hour use and then got the full ECMO approval for during the COVID pandemic response. So again, the Quantum Elite is the focal point of Spectrum's ECLS platform. It measures hemoglobin, arterial saturation, venous saturation. It can run up to 2 different centrifugal pumps for left heart and right heart support or biventricular support, as well as run ECLS. You're also able to attach a roller pump to it if you wanted to drive it for the neonatal pediatric populations. You have the ability with the Elite workstation to have 2 flow and bubble detectors, 4 integrated pressures, and a temp. It has our powerful Viper architecture sitting in the background for all the predictive analytics, best practices, and the App Store in order to use or not use certain applications. It also has over 200 drivers built into it, so it can connect to third-party devices. So there's a lot of people that are using this monitor in itself to connect to other ECLS platforms or to connect to their ventilators or their Philips monitors, cerebral oximeters, thromboelastograms like we just heard about, to be able to pull all the data into a single point, so you're not trying to capture it through multiple views. We really did work to make it simple in terms of use. So for the frontline users, there is the ability of just going plus or minus on RPMs. And if there ever is a bubble detection or pressure regulation, it would notify the customer or notify the user and allow them to react to the scenario. The other device which we currently have and is being upgraded through the software is our quantum ventilation unit. Now, this has the ability to non-invasively measure PaO2, PCO2, FiO2, sweep, a variety of other supply pressures to make sure that you're not losing supply pressure during the case, as well as calculated values like DO2, DO2I, VO2, oxygen transfer across, CO2 removal. And it has the ability to go down to 50 mLs of sweep and up to 20 liters of sweep through the electronic blending function. It has the ability to auto-regulate now to PaO2 and PCO2. So you do a set point of, let's say, a PO2 of 250, PCO2 of 40, and it changes your FiO2 and sweep for you. And we are building into the architecture of Vision, where all of that could be done remotely. So you don't need to be sitting bedside to be able to change gas set points. It could measure another 3 flows, 3 temperatures, and a variety of other measurements. So again, the goal of our ECLS platform was to have multiple frames. We have, for transport, we do have a carbon fiber transport frame, which is available. Everything connected to it weighs 20 pounds. We have a Toronto frame, which you see in front of you. This has the ability not just to run ECLS, but if you're in a cath lab, can become a full heart-lung machine. And then the Charlotte frame here, which is just the simple workstation with a diagnostic or ventilation and pumps connected, which is a very small footprint. So moving on to our disposable that just was FDA approved, CP22. We do have a CP37 for bypass. It will come with integrated inlet and outlet pressures. It's 22 ml prime volume, could get up to 8 liters of flow, create up to 600 millimeters mercury of pressure with a max RPM of 5,500. They're both 3/8 inlet outlet connections. We also have a patented hydraulic performance, which allows for actually hydrodynamic lift at under 50 millimeters of mercury. So there's no point or bearing or contact within this centrifugal pump. There will be integrated non-invasive inlet and outlet pressures. And we even have one that has a built-in stainless steel heat exchanger sitting on the top, which could be used both for water or for our Mr. Frosty glycol connection. For our ECLS platform, we decided to go with a PC1036 coating, a very high-performance polymer coating, which has been used on stents in a very positive way. It creates a full cross-linking, so you get every part of the surface. And being non-heparin-based, it could be used on all patients. So pending FDA approval is to complete the full pack is our oxygenator. This oxygenator is quite different than what's on market. It is a dual gas chamber, hypobaric controlled VQ mismatch oxygenator, which eliminates gaseous microemboli up to 99%. We created a cylindrical potting, so although you do see a square-like shape or a diamond-like shape, it is completely cylindrical, and we'll go through that in the next slide. It has centrally placed inlet outlet. It has a non-invasive arterial pressure built in, and it has safe lock gas lines. Now, from a flow dynamic standpoint, we've spent the last 3 years, to create uniform distribution of flow. You start creating, as you saw, even from the tag, consumptive coagulopathies with microclots and ECLS systems from flow patterns that are non-uniform. Whether it's a diamond or not, you end up having, lower velocities and lower flows in certain areas. As you can see to the graph to the right here, we've created within 1% the same flow across every section of our oxygenator. We did it with divots to create centrifugal force, and then creating a cylindrical, no corner, no stagnant area oxygenator. We create a very uniform flow pattern to allow similar velocities and lower potential up to 8 liters of flow. You end up with about 40 millimeters of mercury at 5 liters, 1.6 meter surface area, 3/8 in and out. Again, built-in pressure and hypobaric. We have a pediatric and a neonatal one that will follow. And given the time constraint, I'm going to jump right into the next slide. So the other thing that we really wanted to do with our workstation that runs pumps, right, is to make it intelligent. So we've created the full 15-page LSO registry built into the workstation with a simple flow pattern. So this will allow you to collect all the data for your LSO registry and your other registries and have the ability from an XML format to deliver it right to LSO and keep it in your own database as well. It has all the complications built in, and it's collecting all the third-party data, so you could start building predictive analytics from that. One other aspect as my time is running out. is we do continue to improve. I think you're able to see the screen, our remote monitoring capability. So we have multiple upgrades through LiveView to really be able to see your patients without being in the room and help make decisions. And that's waveform, that's critical care scoring systems, that's lab data, all the channel data, which has really made an impact for the centers that are currently using our system to deal with up to 15 patients at a time and create all types of oxygenator performance, lung function, anticoagulation scores, to really let them know where they should be spending their time. And with that, I believe my time is up, and I very much appreciate giving the chance to talk. Thank you, Carla, and the team there.
Thank you, Jeremy. We're going to save all the questions to the end of this presentation for all of our speakers. So our next speaker is Patrick Ferguson. He is the Senior VP of Global Commercial Operations with Terumo. Patrick?
Thanks, Carla. All right, let me share my screen. Okay, are we good? Great.
We can see you.
We're
Great. Thanks.
we're good, except we lost your video.
Okay. I'll well, instead of exiting out, if you can hear me, I'll come back on. As Carla said, I'm Patrick Ferguson, VP of Global Commercial Ops here at Terumo, and really appreciate Sandoval Symposium for continuing to put this on and inviting us to give a high-level overview on our approach to the COVID pandemic, a supply update, and our response to the FDA guidance on ECMO therapy. So in lieu of a product presentation, really wanted to provide a global perspective here. So I'm thankful to be here. So as Jeremy said, before I even start, on behalf of everyone at Terumo, I want to say a very humble and sincere thank you for your efforts and sacrifice and incredible commitment, particularly during this difficult time. So a quick reminder that we're actually part of a larger Terumo group. We consist of over 25,000 associates operating in 160 countries globally, all working together, aligned across our group mission, which is to contribute to society through healthcare. And I mainly bring this up because this breadth has actually been very helpful to quickly learn and leverage best practices globally as this pandemic has unfolded. So we really feel that we don't have just the responsibility to respond, but also to help combat the COVID-19 pandemic. And so we're following three key policies to combat this. So what is Terumo doing? We're aligned with three key policies across the globe. First, of course, is to protect the health and safety of all of our Terumo associates and their families. Second, to maintain a stable supply of products to continuously meet the needs of our global customers. And third is to actively engage in and contribute to the prevention and treatment of the disease by maximizing Terumo's expertise and technologies. And of course, these policies are in line with our shared corporate values. So I'll give you a quick detail about our activities in each of these three areas. So for the first policy, all of Terumo's global sites have implemented strict prevention measures to help mitigate the spread of the virus. As you would expect, our plant in China was the first Terumo team to face the COVID-19 challenge. They managed with actual minimal disruption to supply and developed safety protocols that were actually adopted by their local government ministry and then have been very helpful as the spread has continued around the globe. So the prevention strategies that we've set in place are constantly evaluated by the executive team to make sure we're doing everything we can for our team and adhering to government regulations and CDC guidelines, of course. And ultimately, focusing on essential functions to make sure that we're able to continue supporting the needs for you and most importantly, patients. All right, supply. We're doing everything we can while being safe and responsible to get you the products and support that you need. This is certainly unprecedented times, and we know that supply needs could continue to change rapidly, and so we're very committed to staying both flexible and very proactive. So first and foremost, our cardiovascular business has actually not had supply disruptions so far due to the COVID-19 issue. So that's great, and that's been from a heavy focus, particularly on supporting our supply chain and continuously monitoring inventory levels. We're also analyzing and confirming demand expectations from several different sources to make sure that we're resource planning properly. And so where possible, we're building up inventory levels to make sure we're prepared for the needs, not only today, but in the days to come here, for whatever that holds. So our field service and sales team, we are continuing to provide support as appropriate. This includes obviously equipment, repairs, preventive maintenance, really anytime that we're needed, and of course approved now by your facilities. And so our clinical team is focused on providing new online training tools to help support you when your institutions prefer that we're not there in person right now. So our third priority is to contribute to the prevention and treatment of the COVID-19 disease. This includes donations to the World Health Organization Response Fund, as well as funding and product distribution to medical institutions around the world. This ranges from early ECMO donations in China to thermometers donated globally from our general hospital division. So really an all hands on deck. And there's, of course, a tremendous amount still to be done on that area. We're also leveraging our expertise from our global headquarters in Ann Arbor, Michigan, to partner with non-healthcare companies that can manufacture essential equipment for hospitals here in the US. So finally, I'm happy to announce that in accordance with the FDA's guidance for industry that everyone received, we're working to provide the expanded guidance throughout our product portfolio to support use of applicable devices in ECMO therapy during the crisis. So announced earlier this week, this includes our FX25 oxys and CDI blood parameter monitoring systems. And we'll continue to roll that out with more to come, more products to come. And of course, please reach out to your Terumo team for any relevant clinical questions. So we're very excited to be able to support those needs in cases where a traditional ECMO device may not be available. So really to close, again, I want to say thank you. And we're very firmly committed to supporting the global efforts to battle this COVID pandemic together. Thanks.
Thank you, Patrick. Our next speaker is Deborah White, Director of Global Sales with Quest Medical.
Hello, Carla. I want to thank the staff at Perfusion.com for all their efforts transitioning from a location-based meeting to a successful online endeavor. At Quest, we truly appreciate your efforts as healthcare providers and your unwavering commitment to patient care. We are here for you working behind the scenes, ensuring uninterrupted product availability and developing new products to help you provide better care to your patients and yourselves during and after COVID-19. I would like to take a moment and introduce you to our parent company, Atrion Corporation. Atrion is comprised of three very distinct divisions: Quest Medical in Allen, Texas, Hockey Roberts in St. Petersburg, Florida, Atrion Medical Products in Huntsville, Alabama. Together, the Atrion vision is focus, execution, and innovation. Atrion Medical is also the leading supplier of medical products for infusion, cardiovascular, and ophthalmic markets, as well as for non-medical inflation products. Atrion distributes products worldwide to over 60 countries. We are financially sound with a strong balance sheet, no debt, and we're traded on the NASDAQ. At Quest, we are pioneering innovation to improve lives. We are a US committed manufacturer using parts made in the US with a 100% US labor force. This is one of the reasons why our production has not been affected by COVID-19. Some additional COVID-19 guidelines we have in place are significant countermeasures have been taken in early March that have proven effective for ensuring a safe and healthy work environment for our workers. No employees have tested positive, nor have they been exposed to someone who has tested positive for COVID-19. Our employees have been deployed for remote work, rotation work schedules, and a 7-day operations schedule to reduce the facility traffic by 50% daily. We will continue to closely follow and assess orders from the state of Texas, Dallas and Collin County, and federal guidelines. We are practicing social distancing as much as possible in the facility. We have split manufacturing shifts across 7 days, encompassing 2 teams, A and B. So if one particular group would get infected with COVID, we would still be able to maintain 50% of those workers working. We've effectively reduced daily traffic by over 50%. Only essential personnel are allowed in the facility. We've increased cleaning performed each night, and disinfectants are readily available throughout the facility. PPE is available in the facility for all employees, and we've provided every employee with personal PPE kits for each employee to take home and use it while they're away from work. These kits include masks, gloves, glasses, and hand sanitizer. Our COVID-19 market impact is our infusion market has seen an extreme increase in production and sales of COVID-19 specific sets, specifically IV tubing sets, extension sets, and manifolds. We have also launched the Clinch non-occlusive securement band. Our IV tubing extension sets have enabled the COVID-19 patients' IV pumps to be placed outside of their rooms. Placing the IV pumps outside of the rooms limit the healthcare provider's direct exposure to the COVID-19 patient over their shift, and it conserves PPE and the time it takes to don the PPE. Our 6-port manifolds have allowed many drugs to be given at once to the COVID-19 patient. Therefore, they aren't having to wait for one medication to finish before they receive another one. Our cardiovascular market has been impacted in the reduction of number of heart surgeries being performed, and that has impacted our perfusion product line. In that downtime, we have been preparing for the MPS 3 launch. We also created a COVID-19 specific infusion catalog that's on our website, and the web address is listed below. On the left-hand side of this slide, it depicts our IV tubing extension sets, and manifold specs launched for the better care of COVID-19 patients. The right-hand side of this slide demonstrates the Clinch, a non-occlusive securement band COVID-19 solution that can be used anywhere in the hospital. The Clinch can be used to secure or organize the IV tubing, extension sets, manifold, gas and suction lines, and Foley catheters while the patient is recovering in their room and during any type of transport. The Clinch can also be used on the COVID-19 patient's ECMO circuit. Clinch can secure the cannulas from moving, in addition to securing the ECMO circuit tubing, gas and water lines, and power cords. So the perfusionist can limit the number of times entering the COVID-19 patient room and have peace of mind that their lines are secure while conserving their PPE. I've included a flyer that one of our hospital clients posted internally highlighting the uses and benefits of our IV tubing extension sets. As you can see, benefits for clinicians include reducing exposure risk, allowing clinicians access to the pump outside of the room, reducing cost and time associated with PPE. As you know us for our core brands, they include Quest MPS systems. We offer perfusion valves, split septum needleless valve connectors, the Q2. We have perfect cut aortic punches and the clean cut aortic punch. We have the clinch securement band. We have ExoFlex manifolds, lacquer cath balloon catheters, and a multitude of IV administration sets. So as you continue to care for yourselves and your families and your patients, know there is a light at the end of the tunnel and new innovations are almost here. The MPS 3, we are on the precipice of receiving FDA approval for this pinnacle of myocardial protection, innovation, and delivery. MPS 3 is everything the perfusion community has been asking for over the last decade. Thank you, and I hope you will join us later for our Quest-sponsored talk, Quest MPS 2 Usage with Modified Whole Blood Microplegia by Courtney Novello, and the Shark Tank discussing cardioplegia.
Thank you, Debbie. Our next speaker is Joel Campeau, Manager of Global Strategic Planning for LivaNova. Joel?
Yes, thank you, Carla. And thanks to the Sanibel Symposium for allowing us to present just a quick update about our company's response. So I'm part of LivaNova, and I wanted to talk about our activities during COVID-19, not just our response. So all of the facilities are open in manufacturing, Arvada, Pittsburgh, Mirandola, and Munich. As a matter of fact, we have another facility in Houston that manufactures non-cardiovascular products that has been brought online to help manufacture some of our cardiovascular products that are in high demand right now. So our finished goods are at full levels, and our production is actually, as I said, ramping up to respond to increased demand that we may see. And our field team is standing by to help any way that they can. We are working full schedules, filling our warehouses, and our sales and field service for PMs and sales for training on-site or most often virtually are still available and ready to help. What's new is the FDA guidance that came out April 6th, and many of the companies that are presenting during this session are impacted by this. We have submitted a pretty long list of our products for this new temporary ECMO greater than 6 hours label. And we have received that temporary label for the peri-pandemic timeframe. For many of the products, they come from our acute circulatory support line, LifeSpark pump, Tandem heart pump, and Tandem Life kit, Tandem lung oxygenator, Protect Duo, and among others. And some of our cardiovascular products that are typically used in the operating room are also approved for this label. The S5, the CP5, the Revolution pump, Inspire oxygenators, and of course our EOS PMP oxygenator. Specifically, our ACS product line under the Tandem Life label, they are currently being used to support COVID-19 patients. So Protect Duo, which is our veno-venous drainage and reinfusion cannula, which is unique in its right atrial to pulmonary artery configuration. And it's placed through a single neck insertion point in the right internal jugular vein. It is being used currently to support many COVID-19 patients. Primarily, this cannula was designed to minimize recirculation even at maximum flow. Another unique feature of this cannula is that it is coaxial design, which allows for rapid, confident placement using just fluoroscopic guidance. And again, like I mentioned, it's an RIJ insertion, so this allows the patients to sit up and be mobile and optimize their recovery as opposed to a groin cannulation strategy. This cannula is available in a 29 French and 31 French with correspondingly different lengths, and it covers pretty much the entire range of adult patients. Another item that received this ECMO, temporary ECMO greater than 6 hours label from the FDA is the Tandem Lung Procedure Kit. Now, what the Tandem Lung Procedure Kit is it's the Protect Duo cannula packaged with our pre-connected pump and oxygenator. Now, our oxygenator, which is also called Tandem Lung, is a polymethylpentene oxygenator with a radial flow design. And in this kit, it's combined with the Protect Duo cannula, as I mentioned. And this entire circuit, it comes sterile in the package and is positioned on the patient. So it has a very small circuit size, less than 3 feet of blood tubing. And it can be attached to the patient using a wearable vest called the Voyager vest that helps to secure the circuit to the patient. And what sits remotely from the patient is actually a drive cable instead of the 3/8-inch blood tubing. Now, speaking of specific experiences with our platform during COVID-19, a large Midwestern ECMO hub. So this is a catchment hospital for many of their spoke hospitals that are part of the network. They recently decided to place all of their COVID-19 patients on support with Protect Duo after having tried a neck to groin 2-stick cannulation strategy and not having very much success with that. As a matter of fact, last week, this hospital had 25 patients on VV-ECLS simultaneously with Protect Duo, and 88% of those patients were extubated while on support. And this allowed the clinicians to further protect the lungs from the effects of the mechanical ventilator. And bonus, it also allowed them to free up the ventilators to be used throughout the hospital on other patients who were needing ventilation, but not quite needing to be on ECLS support. At another Midwestern hospital, another large VAD center, Protect Duo was emergently placed on a COVID-19 positive young adult in a rescue setting. The patient was proned and acutely decompensated with critical hypoxia, went into cardiac arrest. The patient was put onto his back. CPR was initiated, and during CPR, they were able to emergently place the Protect Duo cannula. Because again, this cannula is coaxial and can be placed using just fluoroscopic guidance. So we're really excited about what we're seeing out in the field with our clinicians using Protect Duo with its right atrium to pulmonary artery bypass configuration, when we've had over 50 patients with COVID-19 treated with the Protect Duo cannula. Our entire platform, we designed the entire platform to be simplified. And this approach has really come in to help us with a Mid-Atlantic center that had just brought the platform in because they liked the on-patient sterile insertion procedure. They liked its ability to be worn in the vest and the small circuit size, but they hadn't had the opportunity yet to be trained on the usage of the platform. So our team was able to remotely, I believe we had one instance of on-site training, but the rest were done virtually, remotely. We were able to train the entire team, the doctors, the perfusionists, and the nurses, to use, support, and manage the circuit on their patients. Because it's such a simple device and such a simple procedure with our kit, to learn that we were able to train them confidently using just virtual techniques. And this really came in handy for them because it allowed them to increase their support capacity, because they weren't starting a new program. They were bringing us in to add to their current devices and current supply. And it really helped them out a lot to increase their capacity to support patients. And actually, across the country right now, all of our field team are actively supporting cases virtually using FaceTime or WebEx or Zoom. There is some in-hospital support still going on, and that's on a case-by-case basis depending on the severity of the need. We are training clinicians, conducting in-services using these variety of virtual tools. So that's all we have today for you. We do want you to ask about our virtual learning hub. We have virtual learning hubs available online for learning more about our products and seeing some in-depth features and content. You can visit us online at LivaNova.com. Contact us at tl.marketing@livanova.com. That's our Pittsburgh team that manages the acute circulatory support platform. Or you can reach out to me directly, joel.campeau@livanova.com. Thanks again, guys.
Carla, you were muted. Try again.
I'm so sorry. Thank you, Joel. Our next speaker is Stu Strong, President of Global Hospital Haemonetics Corporation. Stu?
Hey, Carl.
We can hear you.
All right, great. And can you see my title slide?
We can.
All right, great. 2 for 2. So first and foremost, I'd like to say thank you to the organizers for having me here. Thanks for the introduction, Carla. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to you for a few minutes this afternoon. And like the other speakers, we recognize the impact and the disruption that's been caused by this COVID crisis. We also recognize what it's done to elective procedures and to the perfusion community. As the original developers of autotransfusion, our roots go deep with the perfusion community, and we recognize the difficult times that we're all facing right now. So thank you to your group for that. I wanted to give a quick overview of who Haemonetics is. I think that often many of you are very familiar with who we are in the hospital space, but we actually have we're a matrix business with 3 overall business units. And all 3 are actually involved in supporting the fight against COVID-19 in their own different way. So I'll start on the right side of this slide and work my way from right to left. One of our businesses is what we call our blood center business unit. And in the blood center business unit, we're working with blood collection centers to really mitigate the shortage of blood created by this COVID crisis that we're facing. Product quality is, of course, very critical. Every donation counts, and at a time like this, we want to make sure that those who rely on our products are able to get blood, and we're able to seamlessly collect. So we're not the ones that actually collect the blood, but we provide the equipment and the software for these blood collection centers to do their jobs. We also have a plasma business unit, and in the plasma collection centers, again, we supply the collection devices and the disposables, as well as the software to manage collections for these collection centers. We're seeing a lot of news, as I'm sure you've talked about here with this group, around potential treatments being explored for COVID patients relative to convalescent plasma. And we're really watching this space very carefully. We're engaging with customers who are starting to do early research, and we'll continue to assess our role in supporting these customers, but we are working very closely in that regard to support our customers in the plasma business. I'm actually the president of the hospital business unit, and I'll talk a little bit more about the hospital business and what we're doing to support you and to support our customers during this crisis. But I wanted to take a step back for a minute and just share with you some of the things that we're doing as a corporation. One of the things that we're doing is, of course, donating equipment for research purposes for some research that we're doing across several areas. I mentioned the plasma area and doing some research in convalescent plasma for these COVID patients. So that business unit is contributing in that way. As it relates to our hospital business, We are actually working with many hospitals on research for the use of TEG in patients that are COVID afflicted. And we're donating other equipment as well as cash to appropriate local and global initiatives relative to the COVID crisis. As it relates to our employees, we're actually supporting leave of absences for those who want to go to the front line. We have many folks that have a clinical background that are either nurses or PAs or perfusionists by training, that we're actually supporting them going back into the field and doing work either on a part-time basis or even in some cases on a full-time basis. And we want to continue to support that. And we thank them for going back to the front lines to jump into this fight. Where possible, we're working from home. Only essential manufacturing personnel are going into our facilities right now with, of course, the appropriate PPE. Speaking of the manufacturing facilities from an operational perspective, our plants and our supply chain is really open and flowing right now. There's really no disruption to our supply chain at the moment. We haven't had any backorder issues. And in fact, we're increasing our safety stock, and we want to make sure that we get to a higher level of safety stock at the moment than what we typically had under normal circumstances. We're of course putting our employees first in these facilities. Our factories have employed several different practices. Of course, the social distancing practices are being followed, as well as PPE requirements for each factory. That goes without saying, but some of the other things that we've done in our factories is we've created more separation between our workers. So each shift has a less people in it to create more separation between them. We've actually also disconnected shifts. So from one shift to another, those folks that are leaving the building never come in contact with the people that are coming into the building for the next shift. We think that's another way to keep our employees safe during this time. And we're disinfecting those areas, those shared areas in between shifts. So those are some of the things that we're actually working on from an organizational perspective. Hopefully going to the next slide. So jumping over to the hospital business unit, you guys are very familiar with cell salvage, and I know that, but we have two other categories. We have TEG and what we call our hemostasis management portfolio, as well as transfusion management. Cell Saver plays that critical role to help limit the use of donor blood, especially during times like this, and the shortage that we're going through right now. So that's obviously a very critical product for us to continue to support you with. And I know David Williams is going to be speaking about Cell Saver later on in the meeting, so I'm not going to steal his thunder with regard to the product. But two other big parts of our portfolio are TEG on the left. And you can see there on the left-hand side, if you guys were wondering from the previous presentation what the TEG 6S looks like, that's the TEG 6S on the left-hand side, and the TEG 5000 right there next to it. And you heard Dr. Morant speak to you about the use of TEG in cardiac surgery this morning. Dr. Morant will try to do what we can to get you the TEG 6S as soon as possible, so we'll work with Kevin at your place on that. We're working, one of the things that came up, I think, in some of the dialogue previously was what's happening with some of these patients that are COVID, that are testing positive for COVID and in the hospital. We're working with physicians right now to do research on that hypercoagulability state and the issues that we've seen in COVID patients, and how to treat those patients that appear not only to be, having pulmonary issues, but also have this thrombosis issue that's going on that we're learning more and more about. So I'll leave that to the clinicians to discuss. But that's something that's very important for us to continue to work with and do some research on as we get more into this COVID crisis. And then finally, one of the things that many of you may not know if you're a perfusionist is that we make a product, a category called transfusion management. And we have what we call blood banking software. One program is called Blood Track. There's another one called Safe Trace. that help hospitals to track donor blood and ensure that patients get the right blood at the right time. And we continue to work on solutions for those hospitals and for the blood banks. And in fact, we're working on a similar initiative relative to convalescent plasma and how our SafeTrace software can help to track that inventory and track that from the donor to the patient as we try to solve for this. So across all of our portfolios, we're trying to find new ways to support our customers in person or remotely if necessary. What we are doing with our field personnel is working remotely where necessary, but also supporting customers if necessary. They found a lot of creative ways to do implementations, to work with in-servicing, and work with our customers through Zoom and through other means. So that's worked very well for us. But there are certain circumstances where we're required to go into the hospital. And of course, in the spirit of putting our people first, we make sure that they have the appropriate PPE to go into those circumstances. So we find that our commitment to hemostasis management, to transfusion management, has never been more important than it is today. And we're really excited about some of the things that we're doing to help our customers and help you with this fight against COVID-19. So I want to thank you again for having me a couple minutes, and want to let you know that we are here to support you and definitely appreciate the job that you do every day. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Stu. It is actually so refreshing and wonderful to hear all of the humanitarian acts that all of our manufacturers are doing. It warms my heart. Thank you. Our next speaker is Alan Chen. He's the Group Manager of Global Therapy Development with Getinge.
Hi, Carla. Thanks for the intro. And thank you to the Sanibel Symposium team for hosting this, doing the rapid pivot to virtual, and giving us manufacturers the opportunity to engage our customers. As Carla mentioned, I'm the Group Manager for Global Therapy Development here at Getinge. There we go. First, I'd like to thank all the perfusionists and other healthcare workers out there. Getinge appreciates everything you're doing in the front lines taking care of patients. We know how our products play a role in that, and we feel a deep responsibility to deliver and support our critical products. And we're committed to doing everything in our ability to help you clinicians and your patients. So just a little bit about Getinge. Many of you probably better know it as McKay, but we obviously have the cardiac device. You may also be familiar with our intra-aortic balloon pumps, CardioSave. But we also have many other products. Most prominent in the fight against COVID, we have ventilation product lines. We also have other divisions that do OR build-outs, and life science divisions that provides equipment for pharma and vaccine research and development and manufacturing. So this crisis really touches our company across multiple areas. So obviously, this is a worldwide pandemic. Over the past few months, we've seen huge increases in orders for our ventilation devices and our cardiopulmonary devices, oxygenators, centrifugal pumps, cannulas. And following the proliferation of the disease, demand spikes started in Asia, followed in Europe, and now most recently hit North America last month. So we're trying to be very active across all product lines, especially ventilators, which bore the brunt of the sudden spike in demand. Last year, Getinge produced about 10,000 ventilators, but due to the crisis, we're ramping up and we're targeting to produce 26,000 ventilators in 2020. So that's about 260% last year's level. To try to accelerate this as much as possible, Getinge recently borrowed about $100 million to finance production expansion of this life-saving equipment. On the cardiopulmonary side, we're doing everything in our capabilities to secure the supply. Obviously, numerous workers are impacted not just directly by the disease, but by quarantine situations, social distancing. But Getinge is shifting around resources and personnel to make sure that our critical products aren't impacted. We're also maintaining close communication with governments across the world and also the regulatory, including the FDA, to secure supplies and reduce external roadblocks such as importing, exporting, customs, and just new challenges that have arisen on the logistics side. We're also trying to support new questions that have come up relating to our products. Specifically in this area, we've had questions about oxygenator use on COVID patients and the potential for viral particles to pass across PMP membranes. We've also gotten a number of questions about disinfecting equipment during use on COVID patients and between patients. We've consolidated a lot of this information and created a COVID-19 resource center. It's pretty easy to browse to from our main website, but this is a direct link where you can access all the latest info on our products. And Getinge continues to support our customers, both in person and virtually. Service is one area where it's really tough to shift online. So our service reps are still out there installing and keeping critical equipment operating. On the right, you see one of our reps. He's actually based out of the Wuhan province in China. So this is him in early February. And at that time, that was probably the peak and hottest of hotspots. But there he is installing a CardioHelp and also installing ventilators. Our team is still providing in-person trainings whenever possible and virtually through video conferencing and webinars. And as we try to shift more online, observing social distancing policies, we continue to add to our educational opportunities. Recently, we also formed a ventilator training alliance with other major vent manufacturers. This platform created by Allegro provides clinicians with access to resources, including how-to videos, manuals, troubleshooting guides, and other clinical expertise. So here at Getinge, we are here for you. Please feel free to contact me with any questions. That's my email and my personal cell phone. I may be limited in answering questions during this session, but please feel free to reach out to me later today or at any point. Thanks again, Carla, and thank you everyone for what you're doing out there supporting patients.
Carla, you're muted again.
Sorry. Last speaker, and then afterwards, we are going to go into answering group questions. It's Tom Shannon. He's the Marketing Director, Heart and Lung Therapies for Fresenius Medical Care North America. Tom?
Hi, Carla. Thank you. Now, let me just share my screen. That's not the screen I wanted to share.
Go back to that screen and then go to slideshow and you'll be fine.
All right.
Now go up to slideshow.
Can you see it now?
No, go to slideshow up on top, your top bar right here. Over, you see it?
Well, this worked yesterday, so I apologize. Now let's do this.
You're fine. You see where the
You're
slide.
fine. Just go to slideshow, and then you'll open your full PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
It's basically right above the M from there.
There you go.
Hey, all right, excellent. Well, thank you guys, and I apologize for the technical difficulties. So, as Carla said, I am the Director of Marketing for Fresenius Medical Care North America for our Heart and Lung Group. And first and foremost, I do want to thank all of you, all the participants, all of the frontline service providers for everything you do, not just every day, but especially in these unprecedented times that we have during the COVID-19 crisis. So many of you may or may not know Fresenius is a much bigger company than Fresenius Medical Care. And so I just wanted to give you a kind of a picture. Fresenius has a division called Fresenius Medical Care. We also have a division called Fresenius Kabi. We also own a number of hospital systems within Europe, the Helios Medical System, lots of acute care hospitals, and we have some variety of consulting businesses. But the business is quite diverse, and Fresenius Medical Care is just a portion of Fresenius. So really what I wanted to talk to you today about is our response and what we're doing and what our company is doing, and then how our new division, the Heart and Lung Group of Fresenius, is going to be affecting the business that you are all in the United States. So who are we? We're a medical, we're the trusted leader in dialysis. If you've heard of Fresenius before, you may equate it with a dialysis company because they've been in the renal space for over 40 years. They have been committed to taking care of patients' health even further. We're committed to do it a little bit further now by introducing additional extracorporeal support and in the line of our Heart and Lung Group. So we've been actively addressing the COVID-19 pandemic now with new development every day on what we do. So we dialysis machines, hemodialysis. So Fresenius Medical Care is known for hemodialysis. We acquired another company this year in our critical care group that's called Next Stage, and Next Stage is well known for not only their home dialysis but also their CRRT devices in the acute care setting. So many of you may have seen our CRRT devices in the ICUs already. And then, of course, we acquired Xenios in 2016, which brought us the Heart and Lung Therapy Group, or the products that were most known to you as our ECMO products. So what is Fresenius Medical Care doing? What is Next Stage doing? What is Xenios doing in response to the COVID-19 outbreak? So first of all, Fresenius is well positioned with a disaster preparedness group. They have procedures and protocols in place. They deal with wildfires and hurricanes, and they respond because the continuity of care for dialysis patients needs to be maintained. So as an organization, Fresenius is well versed in how to react quickly to take care of patients in need. They recently, because of COVID, we started this National Intensive Renal Care Reserve group that is now basically pulling together a reserve of hemodialysis and CRRT devices to be appropriated throughout the country. This is specific to the U.S., but we're also collaborating with other dialysis companies to provide additional support where needed. We're providing fluids for dialysis in a variety of other places where other companies can't meet the demand. So we are supporting not only our own company, not only our own patients, but also the needs of patients throughout the renal community. With respect to heart and lung and extracorporeal technology, we're a new player in the US market. We only just received FDA clearance in February, right at the beginning of the COVID outbreak. So we're accelerating our launch plans for our Novolung system into the US market. We're getting consoles in very quickly. We're trying to build a stockpile of our own inventory before we go out to the U.S. market. However, we were planning a midsummer launch, and now we've moved that up, and we're actually accelerating our plans and going in to treat patients and going into centers starting as early as 2 weeks from now. So if you didn't know, Xenios was acquired by Fresenius. We essentially acquired everything that Xenios had, which was Novolung and Medos. So Novolung bought Medos, Xenios acquired the two of those, and then we acquired them a few years back. So just a little history, because a lot of people don't know what Fresenius Medical Care is doing nowadays. But first and foremost, the U.S. introduction of the Novolung system for both veno-arterial and veno-venous ECMO is well underway. We've been in contact with a lot of people to ensure that we're able to provide the need right away where it's needed. We had plans for a limited launch, but now we're going where the need is necessary due to the pandemic. So we were the first device, both system and disposable, to be cleared by the FDA for ECMO under the new ECMO categories. So we've got the permanent indications for ECMO for greater than 6 hours. We're very excited to have ECPR in there as well in our indications for use statement. So how are we ramping up? First of all, Xenios has been very active in donation of equipment to China when that first happened. We provided 20, 30 different devices to a few different centers. We provided hundreds of disposables both in China, Europe, and Russia. Our continued support for our existing customers, but China didn't have approval for our device, so we were able to expedite some emergency equipment to them as soon as possible. And we've been trying to meet all the demands of all of the geographies, all that while building an inventory for the US launch. So we've moved up our US launch to basically May. We're hiring additional clinical specialists, and we've started to conduct virtual as well as on-site trainings. So we are rapidly adjusting to the new environment that we're in. We've added new manufacturing shifts at all of our production facilities. We're increasing those disposables. Among the fiber shortage that had existed globally, the company has assured us they're increased to greater than 100% capacity and is fulfilling their back orders, which will allow all of our vendors who use the polymethyl pentene membrane to produce and get our products to the market as soon as possible. We are prioritizing all our oxygenators into kits that will provide kits for Europe as well as the US. We have received emergency authorization to bring in kits that were originally designed for outside the US so that we have ample inventory of kits in the US. And then we're continuing to build up our supply here so that we can effectively meet the demands of our customers once we do get to the point where everyone needs us. So if you haven't seen the device, and I didn't want to make this a product presentation, I just wanted to show you what it was. It's the Novolung system is not the name Novolung. Many people equate it with our square oxygenator without a heat exchanger, but Novolung, for all intents and purposes, now is a complete VA/VV system using the cylindrical Medos style oxygenator. We have a machine that can be mounted on a cart or carried separately. The disposable is a compact all-in-one system with integrated pressure sensors and the Delta Stream pump. And that's about all I wanted to say about the product. But I did want to say that Fresenius is very well prepared. We've got a proactive response, and we are doing everything we can in these unprecedented times to ensure that patients have access to the care they need, as well as it's our top priority that our staff is healthy and stays safe. We've tried to detail as many actions as we can, and certainly you can look us up online at fmcna.com to learn a little bit more about what we're doing both in the renal space as well as how we plan to launch our product in the US in the coming months. So with that, thank you all for all you do, and I'd be happy to take questions at the end, obviously.